minutes, 8 o'clock p.m.
And how many minutes are allocated altogether?
2 minutes, and we'll do 30 minutes. 30 minutes of public comment. Okay, please go ahead.
Hello, I'm Sarah Flounders, an elected listener member of WBAI's local station board, and I want to address the struggle against racism in its ugliest form right here in the New York, New Jersey area at WBAI Radio. Where we stand and how we act on local struggles for justice is vitally important. As in so many areas of political struggle, there are often opposing factions and sides, and that's not new. This is political life. But in the New York, New Jersey area, we're faced with a group who call themselves ACE, or at other times independents, and they have allowed their factional differences to fester into a thoroughly toxic brew of racism that is beyond measure of anything I've ever experienced in the progressive movement. It's most dangerous in that there's an increasing willingness of this thoroughly hostile faction to call on the police, the state, and to involve the courts against people of color on the Justice and Unity Board majority, in station management, and the programmers. And it's an extremely dangerous precedent. We can't be neutral about this, and ACE as a bloc deserves to be and should be censored for their outrageously divisive conduct. Just to give a few examples, the ACE bloc actually faxed and called the New York City Police Department in an effort to get a board meeting canceled, claiming they had reason to fear violence from people of color, when there had been no threats and was no danger at all. They've made wild public written claims that people of color, such as respected leader Omowale Clay, who's a board member, have threatened their lives when no such threats were made. They've charged board member Serene Roberts with assault. Serene has years of loyal work to WBAI and is crucial in the tally room and fund drives and many other areas. She's now barred from the station. No such assault happened. They've used the same fear of threat of violence to call the Union Hall to get a scheduled public board meeting canceled. It's this kind of outrageous conduct. Everyone here today knows that ACE, or the Independents, held up the counting of ballots for more than 2 months in the elections, generating thousands of dollars in legal expenses by filing an injunction in the courts, again based on totally fraudulent claims. And they plan to continue these efforts to tie up WBAI in the courts.
Sarah, that's time. I'm sorry.
I'm next. I'll go to my time.
So yield your time? Okay.
Thank you.
What?
You can see your time like that, so somebody can talk on forever.
I've done it. I've done it. I've yielded mine a public comment.
I just get 2 minutes, not forever.
Okay, 2 minutes.
This grouping has used bold-faced lies to disenfranchise listeners and to exclude poor people from voting. And it is very fortunate that just yesterday a New York State judge ruled against their maneuvers and finally ruled that the election can finally proceed. And amazingly, having stopped the elections through going to the courts in New York, they tried to set up a rump board of 7 members claiming that no new board had been seated because they tied up the election in the courts. They've used illegal measures to harvest the names of listeners, and the National Election Supervisor found ACE grouping guilty on those charges. They've packed the office of the program manager, Bernard White, and threatened him. They've spread wild charges of assault, pending assault, and threats of violence against him.
Hold it. I'm going to stop the clock. Could members of the public please be a little bit respectful? Okay. Okay, that's very good.
This is what happens when we're
Okay. We need to all respect each other, or try to, at least make an effort in that direction. Okay, go ahead.
The ACE grouping continued a racist smear campaign against Bernard White that's so offensive, calling for him to be beaten with a baseball bat, set on fire. This is in emails. This is true, and it's absolutely reprehensible. During fund drives, They have widely circulated appeals to listeners claiming that their funds would be stolen and urging them not to send their money to the station, but to send it instead to the penthouse of the multimillionaire Steve Brown, because staff at WBAI supposedly can't be trusted. They have actually claimed in their emails widely circulated that Bernard White has intercepted and destroyed over 1,000 donations to the station. These are the kind of unfounded charges of corruption and theft so often used, and especially during vital fund drives on which the station relies. Again and again, they claim that WBAI is collapsing, is bankrupt, has no future. In closing, I want to say that the whole movement for change needs Pacifica Network and needs WBAI in New York. It's a voice for unity, for solidarity, and a strong stand in this station has always been taken against racism.
Okay,
I
thank you.
really
That's
hope
time.
the Pacifica board members take the time while you're in New York to talk with members of the local station board who have been under this onslaught of attacks, to talk with station management who've been forced to function daily under these attacks and slanders, and to read the simple fact sheets that we've handed out to you. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. The next name I have, there's a sign-up sheet that I've been handed. The next name is Marquez. Was that the gentleman that yielded his time? Okay, now next I have Leah, and after that, Frank Lefevre.
We didn't know there was a sign-up sheet.
Oh, okay.
Can you just add our names to it?
Okay, we've got Mitch. Is that Kathy? Kathy, who else?
Kathy, Mitchell Cohen, Alex Steinberg.
Alex Steimer. Okay.
I'm on the sign-up sheet, by the way.
You what? Is that gentleman on the sign-up sheet?
That's the fever, yes.
Oh, that's the fever. Okay, great. Okay. Anyone else who didn't make it to the sign-up sheet? Okay, fine. Leah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Leah, and I just want to say how much I love WBAI, because WBAI expresses the things that are in my head and gives voice to it. But I have been shocked by going to the local station board meetings. I'm afraid to be there. It doesn't make sense. The minute Bob or Nia or somebody opens their mouth, the opposition calls Robert's rules. And this is maybe 10 times in a meeting. And if it's not Robert's rules, it's a point of order, or it's someone looking at the audience with a nasty face. They fall asleep at the board meetings, they eat, and they look like they could just eat up the opposition. And I'm just shocked, and I'm afraid to go to those meetings because they're so lengthy, and it doesn't seem like anybody can accomplish anything. Thank you for giving me this time.
Thank you. Next would be Frank Lefevre.
I'm Frank Lefevre, one of the plaintiffs in this suit. I won't fall into the trap of trying to demolish every one of the 20 or 30 outright lies or falsifications in the diatribe, which I think you will all recognize as propaganda by Sarah Flounders. I'd like to speak of delay. I've seen delay in publicizing the station for the last 3 or 4 years. I've seen delay in taking a serious look at the finances. And during this time when the JUC has been in control, I've seen membership fall by 1,000 members per year. I think we've got a delay in a recovery plan which should have started long ago. As regards the delay in the elections, that delay began right at the outset by a man who says, "Trust me, I'm a lawyer," who, by his violation of the law, delayed the mailing of the ballots right to begin with. I won't take time to go into the many other interventions in the course of the election, but at the time of our suit, it appeared that they were going to close the voting while something like 25 or 30% of staff members had still not received ballots. And I'm talking about people who had requested ballots repeatedly and not gotten them. If they had done the right thing, there would have been no halt in the election. The votes could have been counted on the 17th. People would have been the election would have been certified. You have no doubt who was a director and who wasn't. I understand that sometimes counselor, sometimes interim executive director gave you quite a story about what the suit is about this morning. I wasn't here to hear it, but I'm here to tell you right now that far from delaying the elections, our intent was to complete the elections and complete it fairly. Okay. And the delaying tactics have been very evident from the Pacifica Council.
Okay, Frank,
they showed up at the hearings and the negotiations empty-handed, not a single affidavit. Every opportunity in the book to delay, they have delayed. They feel that delay is in their favor for some reason.
Thank you. Thank you. And Kathy Davis?
Thank you. Yes, I'm Kathy Davis. I'm the Public Affairs Director at WBAI, and I am a staff elected member of the WBAI LSB. I was recently elected as a vice chair. The meeting following that election, which actually turned on the toss of a coin, there was a motion to remove me from that position. In the interim, I, as vice chair, dissented from the other officers of the LSB in this election case. And I absolutely believe that this attempt to remove me as vice chair is just one more measure being used by the majority coalition to silence the voice of myself, not just myself, but staff as well. I found the statement, the opening statement, as we just started here, that Sarah gave was biased, and I felt that there was slander there, just as there's repeated slander being presented about, well, actually it comes from both sides. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of slander. And I'm just hoping that this board will be able to look down the middle and see that anything as extreme as that opening statement would understand that there is some exaggeration in that statement. Now, for a long time, the Justice and Unity Coalition has made the argument that BAI is not in financial trouble. I promise you BAI has some very serious financial problems. We've had 2 one-day fundraisers, Martin Luther King Day. On one day we raised something in the order of $26,000. Another day I think we made $40,000. But having not done that, we would not have been able to pay our rent or meet payroll. We're in very, very serious financial difficulty right now.
Okay,
and I believe we need to address those issues and not give false accusation over and over again.
Thank you. Mitchell Cohen?
I'm glad this started out the way it did with Sarah Flounders of the International Action Center, her opening statement. I know that multimillionaire Steve Brown certainly needs the money that he asked people to send to his apartment, even though he told people to write the name of WBAI and not his own name on the checks. So they left that out in their statement about who the checks were actually made out to, and he simply acted as a conveyor to bring thousands of dollars worth of checks to the station that was made out to the station. So he really needs the money. Right. I'd like to, on November 15th, when the election was supposed to close, loads of people had not yet received ballots, like places around the country, not only BAI. As we've said, 25 to 30% of the staff didn't receive ballot. All of the petitioners and the plaintiffs in the lawsuit that we filed had not received ballots by the time the election was supposed to close. And in fact, many of us did not even receive them by the end of the following week, which was the extended close. In fact, I'd like to show my ballot. It finally came on November 30th, it arrived. And I was just about to mail it in, but I'd like to announce for the world that my ballot, in case it disappears somehow, it will be being mailed in. But it says ballot, on the envelope provided, it says ballot must be received by November, and then a number is crossed out on it, 2007. So this is what we were sent. I got this at the very last day of November, and there were no instructions with what to do with ballots, so a lot of people didn't know whether to send them or not, whether they'd be counted or not. So we filed a lawsuit to guarantee that people who had not received ballots by the close of the election, which we thought was November 15th, and we still insist that it is, had a right to vote and had a right to receive ballots. And that was the reason why the election, and it's just very simple. I'm also, in 1 second, the victim of an assault by Serene Roberts, who actually punched me at a meeting on the station's premises, and a complaint was filed with management. I didn't go to the police. I could have gone to the police, but I didn't want to subject Serene or others to that, or the station to that.
That's time.
And unless people want us to go in that direction, we could go in that direction, but I wouldn't recommend going in that direction or provoking people to go in that direction.
Okay. And this is, actually, I have Patty Heffley next.
Hello, I'm Patty Heffley. I'm a former director of this board for 2 years, 2005 and 2006. I left like a lot of good people leave. I'm first curious how you could even seat the 4 members of the PNB here, because what legal documents were you given to even prove who was elected? There have been no minutes for the BAI local station board approved, or even that I've seen, since April 2006. So what documents did you even have to prove that any of these people are legitimate? I think you should look at that. In 2006 also, a PNB resolution was passed that called for a twice-a-year local station board chair report that was to report to the PNB its adherence to the bylaws, Section 7, Article 7, Section 3, A through M. There was one report only done. These are subcommittees that are governing committees. This is not funny. You should really be aware of what your local station boards are up to. You certainly were concerned today about that vote of flipping a coin, but no minutes for a year and a half from a board that you seated people that you have no legal records for. You know, you should, I hope you're paying attention to these people. Just remember, all the new people, facts are your friends. The facts are your friends. Don't be swayed by words or somebody's sympathetic ideas trying to, you know, they'll start calling you every day and trying to get you influenced to vote the way they vote. You're a member of this board of the foundation, and your first responsibility is to the foundation. It's not to your friends or to keep your little station or your little faction or your little group of people consistent. WBAI is nearly bankrupt, and there's no minutes, and there's, if this new general manager doesn't like pull it out, then we are really in trouble. So I really hope that you guys will pay attention to the facts and not people trying to influence you to vote a certain way or another over all kinds of reasons besides if this is a radio network.
Thank you. And Alex Steinberg, then I have Fred Nguyen and Mike B. after.
Yes, I'm Alex Steinberg. I'm a member of the WBAI local station board. I am also one of the plaintiffs in the legal case against Pacifica. I personally did not receive a ballot until November 23rd, which was the very last day that the extended election date was announced by the National Election Supervisor, even though I had previously requested a ballot no less than 6 times, starting in the beginning of November. So this was one reason why we felt we had to bring this suit against the Pacifica Foundation. Now, what you've heard, particularly from the first speaker, was a series of well-constructed lies. I think some of the people who went before me did an adequate reply to these lies, but I'd like to speak a little bit about the political function that the lie serves. If you go back a little bit in history, there was a phrase in the 1930s called enemies of the people. This phrase was invented by the Stalinist bureaucracy in the Soviet Union to describe their political opponents, most of whom were members of the Bolshevik Party who had taken part in the revolution. This phrase, enemies of the people, was meant to divert attention away from the crimes of this bureaucracy that had, in fact, grown up to be a new ruling class, in effect, worse than and created a regime worse than that you had under the czars. So that was the function of political lies. Grew up out of the degeneration of progressives and revolutionaries and socialists. And so we have it here again today. The political lie is being used in order to shelter a clique that has dominated the political and institutional life of WBAI and has led it close to bankruptcy.
Okay, that's time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Fred? And then Mike B. and Serene.
Okay, I'm Fred Gwynn. I'm a producer at WBAI. I don't get paid, but I don't want to be paid. I have to talk. I'm going to try to talk briefly, but you know, I think it's very sad what's happening at BAI. It's terrible. You know, I started being conscious of this because I was part of the people who helped take back the station, you know, in 2001. And I've been, since then, I've been on the listserv and, you know, reading all the stuff that goes on these listservs and also posting a lot of the stuff myself. But, you know, the thing that really shocks me is the tone and some of the stuff that goes on, calling people gangsters, you know, black people gangsters and violent and things of that nature. And the way I interpret this from being myself a person of color is, you know, it's code word. It's basically it's a racist thing that's going on at Pacifica. And I think people should react to that. They should just not stay on the sideline and just say, it's just people fighting amongst each other. It's very serious. At this point, there's a group of people who want to sue Pacifica, and they're saying, oh, we're broke. So then they sue us so we can even spend more money. You know, I mean, there's something absurd about this concept. Why would you want to do that? It's going to cost another 50 grand. We could use this to do programming to pay some of the people to, you know, healthcare and things of that nature. All right, so they really don't stand for us. One of the people here in these rooms who's supposed to sit on the board says that I voted twice. Now there's a barcode on those ballots, okay? And you could just go in the box and you scan them, and it's impossible to vote twice. So he sends messages on listservs that I don't even know why, and people says, hey, you voted twice, okay? It's slander. They just go on, and everybody tells me, you voted twice, okay? So, anyway, you know, it's very short. I just want to say I want to call on the people here at Pacifica to understand, take interest in what's going on at WBAI, and help us put order, you know, in the house and make sure that these kind of things don't happen. And racism cannot be part of what we're doing.
Okay, thank you. Next I have Mike B.
Hello everyone, my name is Mike B. I'm a listener member, or listener. Okay, let's put it that way. I am a member of Finance Committee for the last 5-6 years. I've been trying to track down the truth behind the financial statements. I'm still tracking down. But if you listen to the Audit Committee meeting of 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, you get to the core of what's happening at BAI from a financial standpoint. And that is incompetency, lack of procedure, lack of accountability, and it has nothing to do with the key person that everybody mentioned, the program director. The program director has no power to sign checks, has no power to hire or fire, even doesn't have the power to pull people off the air. He has to be a committee by union, by unpaid union, paid unions. So I advise you to vote tonight or early tomorrow morning to listen to the Audit Committee report. and listen for the WBAI report with this order that tells you what the financial situation is with the premiums, with the banking accounts, with reserve funds, with the fact that people do not respond to anything from national in terms of accountability, accounting standards, and hopefully you will tell the new GM coming in that he should either get on top of it right away and either make the people accountable or fire them and find new people. Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of late arrivals who signed up. Tibby Brooks.
Sorry. Good evening. I'm Tibby Brooks from the WBAI LSB. And I was really offended when Mitch Cohen spoke about everything, because I come out of an anti-racist struggle in the movements. And to me, BAI has always stood for this kind of anti-racist thing. Whatever we say about anything, that has to be like the red thread that runs through everything. And having been mugged 14 times in 3 countries, I have never gone to the cops. Police are for asking directions and for helping kids and little old ladies cross the street. The first time in my life, and everybody in the New York movement now knows it. I'm not saying that it was Mitch. I'm saying it was this whole collective that got together and CC'd the police precinct of Midtown South. How many times have I been through Midtown South for a CD? How many times have I waited outside Midtown South for other people who have been arrested? You don't shake hands with a cop, they're the enemy. We know about police brutality. And it's the first time in my life that I've been involved with a movement where other people call the cops on me. And I think this is a reflection of a lack of character. It's like when you look at these bourgeois presidential candidates and they're all for the death penalty. It is a character flaw. It's a basic flaw. And racism is a form of denial, of not seeing what's going on, of saying, no, 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 it isn't about racism, but yes, it is. Because I chose sides, and the sides are based on justice, and justice has a great deal to do. Class and race are intertwined in this country. And before you can talk about anything else, you have to look at what's going wrong and rotten. And I think it's really rotten to call the cops because the people in justice and unity happen to be of a different color.
Thank you.
And that's really what it comes down to.
Thank you. Jim Dingaman, and then Serene, and then that'll be it.
Yes. I'd first of all like to have this opportunity to talk to the National Board and welcome those who've been newly elected. My name is Jim Dingman. I was an unpaid staff member on the local advisory board in the early 90s, and I was among the first local advisory board members to speak out publicly about what was going on nationwide with Pacifica and the old National Board. And one of the things that we felt back then, which obviously is clear in this election process here in New York and elsewhere around the country, was we all felt that we had to have a direct election system that was fair, impartial, and honest. And I stress, fair, impartial, and honest, so there would be no arguments like the ones we've been hearing today or for the past few weeks. That process has been impaired by, frankly, I don't know what, but the National Board has to clean that up. That has to be cleaned up, because the only reason why we wanted that in place was because we could reach directly to the listeners who paid with their monies, because all of you know that 80% of the money comes from the listeners. And they're the ones who were being lied to in the past in the early 90s by the old National Board, and we had no way to get to them. I should add, for a point of historical note, the present faction in power at the time, many of them were aligned with the old National Board. And that includes Amy, Bernard, and many others. That's a fact. They didn't change their minds until their jobs were threatened in '99. And they didn't, I should add, speak out in favor of the people at KPFA. So I end this by stressing that this whole situation, there cannot be games played locally on the election process. It has to be honestly monitored. It has to be divorced from the faction bullshit, and that has to happen. Otherwise, I may decide to run for the board again, because I like to fight. I like this political fight stuff, and I'd rather see it an honest election process so I don't have to bother with that.
Thank you. And Serene? Sir.
Okay, I actually wanted to begin in a different way instead of responding to all the stuff that has gone on. And you're going to hear all the election stuff tomorrow, and I'm sure you've had enough of it for today. So I'll let that go, except to point out that one half of the family, the ACE/Listproc/Independents/ whatever they'll be next year, caused the delay in the mailing of the ballots. Then others among them sued because there was a delay in the mailing of the ballots. You know, so it doesn't, pay attention, okay, folks? Pay attention, listen, pay attention to the details. What you'll find here is a game that's being played. They shift names, they shift faces for who's going to say what on which day. They work together. Okay, enough of the elections, we'll come back to that. With regard to the claim that my colleague made, that she was removed, or that there's a motion to remove her as vice chair, I want to explain what happened here. First of all, she's on the board. She was elected 2 years ago. She also created the list of voters for that election. Okay, I was told that the bylaws doesn't forbid it, although there may be ethical issues in some people's mind that it's not bylaw illegal, something we should fix. But at any rate, she was elected as vice chair this year. And immediately after that legal meeting, she went over to a coffee shop, which isn't even wheelchair accessible, which makes it illegal, even if they thought they were legal, in terms of Pacifica's rules. And she accepted officership in the bogus board, the bogus LSB, the 12-person LSB that has actually 7 members of the, I guess I should call them the opposition, since we're using clean language. And she accepted an officer's position in the rump LSB. So, you know, I don't know if you can really have your foot in 2 houses at the same time. And since she did one after she did the other, it is clear that she does not have respect for the 24 people, the board, that voted that night. And as such, I think she should really resign and save us the trouble of having to waste time at a meeting to remove her.
Okay, thank you, Serene. That's time.
Oh, geez. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you, members of the public, for being so respectful of the timekeeper. It's a great, great relief. Now, if we can move on quickly to some introductions. We have some new, brand new directors on the board. If every director could state their name, their signal area, just very briefly, a little something about your background, plus our 2 esteemed staff members, the Chief Financial Officer and the Interim Executive Director. And it looks like Yosh is a little preoccupied over there. Maybe we'll start at this end. Dan, would you like to introduce yourself? If you do the math, if you take 20 of us, it can add up real quick. So I just urge people to be a little bit restrained.
Well, I'll be I'll be real quick because I've been actually taking a lot of my time today, but I'm Dan Siegel. As Doc pointed out, grateful to be General Counsel, willing to be Interim Executive Director for as short a time as possible, and enjoy the meeting.
Well, that was...
My name is Sarah Randawa, and I'm from KPFA, a radio station in Berkeley, California. And I've been on the board for the last 4 years. This is my 5th year. And I've always taken this as a tremendous opportunity to really, it's a real honor to serve this organization, Pacifica. Its mission is just outstanding, and there's no other network like that in the world. So I take it very, very seriously, my obligation towards its founding principles as well as its mission. And so I always try to do my best. We're not perfect, we make mistakes, and especially with the new current bylaws we have, it's a very complicated process. And we have a lot of kinks we have to work out. And you know, democracy is it's not a very easy thing, and it's a lot of work, and sometimes it's frustrating. And yet, maybe at the end of the day, someday we'll achieve what we set out to achieve here. But I think it's a very, very noble undertaking, and the path we're on, I think, is a good one. So it's my absolutely pleasure to be here.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Simmons, and I'm a staff rep from KPFA in Berkeley. I am a new guy here on the national board. However, I've been on the local board for the past 4 years as the vice chair for the first 3 years, and then the chair of the local station board last year. And I come to this as a staff person. I've been at KPFA since 1990. I do a music show. I have been doing radio in the Bay Area since 1968. And a lot of other music-related things, which is what I do to keep myself afloat. Happy to be here and hope that I'm able to serve in whatever way that might make good use of me.
Okay, I'm Jack Van Aken from KPFK. I'm a burnout hippie originally from Chicago that somehow got to Los Angeles. I may have hitchhiked, I can't remember. Pacifica Radio is my first foray into social activism, and there are definitely times when I'm looking for the exit door, but it's a couple of years off. This is probably the greatest privilege of my life, though, to have been on the local station board and now on the Pacifica National Board. I'm Chair Pro Tem. We'll elect a permanent chair tomorrow. Thank you all for coming here.
I'm George Ryder. I grew up in a working class neighborhood of Brooklyn. First became politically active in the Vietnamese War. I helped organize the first anti-war demonstration in Orange County, California. I'm a professor of physics now at the University of Houston. I've been active in the anti-Star Wars activity and generally in issues of weapons control and those sorts of things where knowing something about science matters. Got involved with KPFT after I came back from Nicaragua. El Salvador. After the slaughter of the Jesuits down there, and had several shows. Been kicked off twice by the old guard. I've been on and off the lab or the LSB since its inception. We took over the station, and presently doing a show on KPFT called Thresholds, and it's about new possibilities in the society, and you can get it on your internet.
Greetings. I'm Evelyn Bethune, and I'm an activist as well as the CEO of the Mary McLeod Bethune Educational Legacy Foundation. I'm very disturbed by the kind of comments that I've been hearing today as it relates to racism and some of the things that I'm just observing of the way that we're interacting with each other. Pacifica is probably the last bastion of where we're going to be able to really put truth on the air. And if we implode, it won't happen. We have got to vigorously find a way to find some common ground, because we're spending too much time fighting each other, which is exactly what the opposition hopes we'll do, so that they have the opportunity to kill us all. And if we don't take this thing seriously, the Democrats can't solve it. Republicans can't solve it, but the people can. The Constitution says we the people. And we forget that. This is the venue. This is what we the people means. And what we're doing across the network is not productive. We are not conducting the business of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we have to really get back to that, because Pacifica is part of the solution, but only if we use our voices out there, not to destroy each other in here.
Thank you, Evan, for your comments. My name is Joe Anzala. Listener rep from Berkeley. I've been involved with Pacifica in various ways as a local advisory board member and an LSD member for the last 5 years. And since the mid-90s, we Take Back KPFA, which became part of the Save Pacifica movement. So I've been involved in various ways and now on the board and serving in a different role. I look forward to working with most of you. And you know, I mean, we are at a difficult juncture, but I just operate on the principle, on the motto that, you know, there is no hope, so don't give up. Just keep on pushing.
Hello, I'm originally from New York. My name is Grace Aaron, and I'm from KPFK. Been living in Los Angeles since 1975. I've been a long-time peace activist with Peace Action and Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And I've been on the KPFK LSB for 4 years, and I was the chair of the LSB in 2006. And I appreciate all you being here, and hopefully we'll move forward, and the contentiousness will dissipate somewhat.
Good evening, I'm Carolyn Burden, from WBAI, listener rep. I've been on the local station board for several years, thanks in large part to the inspiration of Patty Heffley. But I found my early reasons for loving BAI early on, and I'm happy to be here and be able to give something back to the foundation that produced the radio station that was a crucial part of my political education, I must say. I happen to come from Newark. I was born here, and for those of you who will never get beyond the Hilton and train station, I suggest you wander around a little bit. My grandfather had a business on South Orange Avenue. My parents are buried here. And Newark happens to be known, among other things, for its wonderful water. At one time, there were 6 breweries located in Newark. And Breyer's Ice Cream was here. So it's a nice place to get to know if you have the time. And in the meanwhile, I hope that, as several other people have said, we can overcome some of our differences and raise our sights and act a little bit to do some of the things that will make this foundation work. My own interest has always been in the elections. My feeling is that the basis of the entire foundation is fair and honest, clean elections, well run, and an informed electorate. If we don't have members who understand what is happening, if all they do is pay the $25, it's not going to work. So if each one teach one is our motto, we might get somewhere. And I hope that we will continue to educate each other and vote for a better foundation, station and foundation.
Hi, I'm Wendy Sherrill. I've been on the Pacifica board since this board was formed after 2004, although I did have a year off in between. And I have 2 small children, and my husband does political satire on KPFT and contributes to the Christmas Coup Comedy Players on WBAI. And we love WBAI. Happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. I'm Rob Robinson, a listener representative from WPFW in Washington, D.C. And for all of you oldsters, I was a plaintiff. I sued from the board when I was on the board in 2000. So for those of you that are thinking about it, I know what it's like. I know what the rules were then. And for those of you that have got interesting renditions about who was on what side, I've heard a lot of interesting stories tonight that don't necessarily jive with what actually happened. I guess one of the reasons that I'm still doing this is because I feel there is such a desperate need for Pacifica voices throughout this country. And I think when you look at what we fought for in 2000, and if you look at what Pacifica was doing in the 50s and the 60s, it's clear that we can and we need to have a new golden age of Pacifica. But in many ways, what keeps dragging us down are these internecine conflicts. We have a great deal of problems around the issue of sharing power, and race certainly enters into that. We also have a very conflict-ridden culture because we quite frankly can't manage well the access to the local station microphones. And as a result of that, we spend less time worrying about producing the programming that's going to liberate people and fighting about who's going to stay on the air for 20 or 30 or 40 years. So I seriously hope that all of us can make common cause to make Pacifica what it should be, and to use our airwaves, and certainly now the digital platforms that are open to us, to rededicate ourselves to the Pacifica mission, because people need to hear Pacifica voices. They don't need to hear us fighting. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Davis. I'm with WBAI. I've been on the local station board for 3 years. I've been on the national board for 2. I am a New Jersey listener member of WBAI. And just for the New Jersey representation, I think my suggestion had something to do with us being able to be in this area tonight. And Newark is a tremendous city. You know, we heard some people talk about it. I know of Newark around the time of the 60s, in 1967, and rebellions and the tremendous things that happened and that literally changed the whole area of Newark, and what happened after that, and the people who stayed behind and whose families stayed behind, and the current struggles that we continue to face. I've had the opportunity to work with many of you in this audience and some of you on this board and in other realms in terms of political activism. I don't just talk about what Pacifica talks about. I live it. I come from a community who live it. I know it personally. I am so proud of the history and the tradition of my people, and I will never forget, I will never betray the struggle of who I am and where I come from. I know of people who get on boards and betray it. I will never do that, and I'm not going to do it with this board. And I know that I speak with passion, but I'm going to always tell you the truth. I'm never going to forget where I came from and put a happy face on something because other people don't want to hear it, because it's not like that. I have no illusions about the quote-unquote left. I have no illusions about racism, and I have no illusions about this concept of we, which I really don't think is very well defined, or it barely exists in my opinion. I have often found the left and the right two sides of the same coin, and I speak very honestly because we have to have maturity and the guts to deal with it. And I know that as a proud African American, I'm going to tell the truth about things. I'm going to tell it like it is. Just one other thing I want to say about this area in terms of the media. I grew up in this area here in New York City, or the New York metropolitan area. It's supposed to be so diverse, all these cultures and all these colors, and yet when you turn on most of the radio stations, or when you look at that television box, there's not 1/10 of the reflection of what this culture is. And we have to fight, people of color have to fight for every little inch. I hear so many people, and it's good for people to be concerned about diversity in WBAI, but I'm like, why aren't you concerned about diversity on ABC, CBS, NBC, where you have the chance, you have more of a chance to go in there than I do and say I want it to be diverse, but no, some of them choose WBAI. I think they do it because of their diversity. But I just want you all to know that I'm here, I'm representing, and make sure that I do represent. And please stay involved because it's so important, and thank you for coming.
Good evening. My name is Nia Bediako. I'm a listener member of WBAI, and I've been a 20-year subscriber to the Pacifica Foundation. First, I must apologize for having you waiting I have lost track how long we had you waiting, and I sincerely mean that. I do apologize for that. I also thank you for coming. First, I would like to say that in spite of all of what's going on, Pacifica still functions. It functions, and I'd like to thank the paid and unpaid staff that keep this all going. In spite of the fact that the local station boards and the Pacifica boards, we have our arguments. I won't say fights. I guess we fought yesterday, but we're not going to fight today. Locally, I have been on the local station board for a year. I was the vice chair, and I was basically on all the committees except for maybe one. The first listener comment, I think, was quite appropriate, that the police was called, actually, that I talked with the police. They came and they asked me who was in charge, and everybody pointed to because I was the one that was there early. So that's real. And I sincerely hope that locally that will never happen again. It's very scary for me to be looking at 2 white police officers walking at me as a black woman. Nationally, I would say that I sincerely hope that somehow we could find a progressive substitute for Robert's Rules of Order. This thing absolutely bogs the meetings down. I could speak for the local station board. I've only been here a few hours on the national board. I haven't seen too much of it yet, and I sincerely hope that I won't. I was also the audit committee chair, and I'd like to thank the members of the audit committee that shared that space with me. Some of them are on the board. It's like the Academy Awards. I don't want to name anybody because I don't want to forget anybody. So you guys know who you are. If you want to raise your hands, you could do that. But thank you very much for all your support. And we had quorum, I would say, 80% of the time. Overall, I would like to close by saying that I hope that we can close ranks and just realize that Pacifica is very important. I also like to reiterate what I said. In spite of all the arguing that we do at the local station board and at the national level, the foundation still exists. I think we need to pay attention to what we need to do, which is to govern the foundation locally and nationally, and those business we should take care of and let the rest just fall by the wayside or something, go somewhere. Thank you.
Good evening. It's really great to see so many supporters of Pacifica here tonight, showing their concern. My name is Bob Lederer. I'm a staff representative from WBAI, and this is the beginning of my 4th year on the national board. And I have been an activist against racism and U.S. imperialism for more than 30 years, and also very involved on a lot of issues of health and both access to health care and health justice and holistic healing. And it's that combination of interests and passions that attracted me to WBAI and that enabled me to walk through a door that was open 17 years ago to begin to do some programming about the AIDS crisis that was so sadly neglected by the rest of the media. And since then has evolved into a collective and a program about health that I still have today, still am part of today. And that's what's really been so exciting about being part of the Pacifica Radio Network, that it brings together a platform for people who are passionate and concerned about every social ill and political injustice in U.S. and world society. And that's really what drives me to continue to slog through all of these sometimes very bitter battles and interminable meetings, is that kind of focus on exactly what this network is so crucial for, particularly for oppressed communities. I've done work in solidarity with Black liberation. For many years I did work and do work from time to time in support of independence for the colony of Puerto Rico and freedom for Puerto Rican political prisoners, freedom for Black political prisoners like Mumia Abu-Jamal. And Pacifica has been a crucial part of those campaigns, has been that megaphone and that educational role that we play. And that's really going to continue to be my focus on the board, and maintaining this as a genuine institution of inclusion of oppressed communities, which includes one of the communities I am very identified with as a gay man, on issues of LGBT freedom and equality. Again, another area that Pacifica has continually led the way on. So I'm proud to be part of this institution and to continue to maintain the fight for all oppressed communities to have a voice for their issues and for justice.
I'm Ambrose Lane, WPFW. I've been on the air with Pacifica since I was asked to do a show in 1978. Volunteer programmer. I never got paid for anything until Larry Binsky and I co-hosted all of the confirmation hearings, Justice Thomas and 3 others. I've been trying to warn this country about creeping fascism since about 1982. And I think we have reached the point in this country where it's almost totally here. And I've been extremely pleased to have been able to do that. In addition to Pacifica, I've spent 25 years of my life running agencies serving the poor. And I've also been on XM satellite radio, did a 3-hour-a-day show for XM radio on the power. And we were able to do this very same thing. I've also written about 4 books. I've taught at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I've had an exciting, full life, and I've been able to give so much to Pacifica because I didn't depend on it for my living. I hope that those of us who are here understand the necessity of our commitment to serve the people of this country. We're the last remaining voice that is free in this country. 5 corporations control almost everything all Americans hear, see, and read. 5 corporations. They control all television, most of all radio. They control publishing houses. They've gobbled it all up as a result of Newt Gingrich's giving them the Telecommunication Act of 1996 as a result of being given $4.5 million to write a book. This is the most corrupt regime in the history of the world. And unless we tell people the truth and tell them where to find the corruption and tell them what they should look for in terms of the fascist tentacles that are wrapping around the throats of the people of this country, we're going to be in serious trouble.
Okay, I just have to interject that the time constraint here is really getting very, very tight because they are going to ask us to be out of here, I guess, now at 9:30 for real. So if we could try to keep our comments brief, they seem to grow as we get down the line. So, and then we're going to move on to the election supervisor's report. Okay, Lonnie.
I grew up in Chicago. My father worked in the steel mills. I learned organizing with Saul Alinsky style in Chicago. Then I went to Howard University. I spent 6 years there working with Carmichael and Rand Pryor. Then I went to Berkeley, and I spent the whole '68 period in Berkeley with the Panthers, Ramparts, Mother Jones, and then I went to UC Berkeley for a while, and then I bummed around for a while, and I came here.
Thank you.
CFO.
It's our Chief Financial Officer, Lonnie.
I'm A.C. Bird from WPFW in Washington. Okay, is that okay?
You can say a little more.
I'm A.C. Bird from Washington, D.C., WPFW. Came out of the civil rights movement in the 60s and 70s, and also the peace movement and the environmental movement and the anti-apartheid movement. And I came into acquaintance with Pacifica right around 1977. And ever since then, I've been connected in one way or another with the network, Pacifica. And I want to second what Ambrose has said about the ownership of the media. And I want to say to the people here in New York that we do have to rethink what we're doing, because the media is dominated by corporate America. You even have people like Dan Rather and of course Bill Moyer talking about this very subject. Dan went for a long time before he got convinced about this. But it's just that we need to follow the line of speaking truth to power, because we're not too small, and I think we've had a lot of influence on shaping public opinion. And I think that we probably don't realize just how much we've had, but we don't have the luxury of looking the other way. And we do have to be willing to serve the American people. And I think I appreciate the fact that you all are here. And I hope that you can reconcile your differences. And I hope you can see the big picture rather than looking at it in a smaller way, because we're in deep trouble. So I want to thank you all for being present. And I hope you can think about this a little deeper and move forward.
Good evening. My name is Ifia Nwangaza. I'm from WMXP, Greenville, South Carolina. We are a volunteer grassroots community radio station. We launched this past June of 2007. And I've been aware of Pacifica for a number of years. In fact, in some ways, it's kind of been what they call the soundtrack of my life. First, it was the radio network of my father's church, and then there was Pacifica. I'm deeply saddened by the conditions that I'm hearing at WBAI, which has always been, in my mind, a standard bearer. And to hear that, on one hand, that it's been able to produce the extraordinary programming that it has in the face of these difficulties, it speaks to the genius and the intensity of the human spirit. But on the other hand, it also